Welcome to CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast with Business Solutions MVPs George Dubinsky, Joel Lindstrom, and Sean the CRM Hobbit Tabor. This episode is brought to you by our friends at KingswaySoft. KingswaySoft is a leading integration solution provider offering software solutions that make data integration affordable and painlessly easy. Thousands of enterprise clients from over 65 countries and regions rely on KingswaySoft to integrate data with various application systems in order to drive their business efficiency and fully leverage their information assets. KingswaySoft is a leading provider of Microsoft Dynamics integration software, including Dynamics 365, CRM, AX, NAV, GP, SL, as well as many other applications such as Marketo, Dropbox, QuickBooks, and Salesforce. Whether you need one solution or several, KingswaySoft works easily within the SSIS platform to make your integration process as quick and easy as possible. Many of their clients have seen 3 to 10 times greater data integration performance after switching to the SSIS integration toolkit. Been a busy guy. You went to CRMUG Focus where I saw you, and then you went to Build. Were you impressed with what you saw?
Look, CRMUG Focus, to be honest, was accidental. I didn't even know because it was so US-centric. I didn't even know it was on until I was invited and say, hey, you're in US this week, right? So why don't you come over and join? So first of all, I was really impressed with CRMUG, CRMUG Focus, or UG Focus, whatever you want to call it. But I really like the format. I think I'm going to steal it for my next adventures. But the idea of getting in, keynote of what it was, 15 minutes during the breakfast, and that was it. And then basically sessions, each 1.5 hours long. As a presenter, you would appreciate that it gives you just this extra bit of time to put your thoughts together and to deliver something end to end, a comprehensive topic, except of skimming the surface. So it gives enough time for Q&A and thoughtful discussion. So I thought it was extremely good. How about you?
I thought it was good too.
You presented like 72 sessions during the 2 days. So.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and you're right. It kind of reminded me of the feel of CRMUG Summit 6 years ago, back when we could all fit in one room, and you had 20 to 25 people maximum per session. And I was a little bit concerned going in because 90 minutes, that's like 50% longer than your typical CRMUG session. But what I found is it gave us the ability to have a lot more audience participation. So even the sessions that weren't roundtable discussions, like I did one about business process, and I would throw out, what have you seen? And people would chime in and talk. And initially I was giving out the remainder of the buttons that we had for the CRM audio and CRM tip of the day. So I thought maybe they're responding because I'm bribing them. But no, in the later ones when I was all out of buttons, I still had a lot of people telling their story and got to spend some good time with you and the other MVPs as well. We had a delicious meal of tacos.
Yeah, and I think we unlocked a couple achievements. We, for the first time in history, it sounds like really, really nice. Like for the first time in history, all CRM audio hosts were in one location. In fact, in one restaurant. And what's more, all CRM tipsters were in one location as well.
And all hosts of CRM audio were in one Uber car too, which is not an easy achievement.
To fit all of them in one car, it's how many CRM audio hosts you can fit in one car? Is that the new?
It's like a bad joke. So how about Build then? What was it, Build? So Build is kind of like what's coming.
Yeah, look, it's only from CRM crowd or from Dynamics 365 crowd. There were only 3 people there that I know of. I was there, David Yak was there, and Jason Latimer was there. So now, if it ever comes up, if the question ever comes up, who's the real developer, then you can basically say, well, let me see, let me check who went to Microsoft Build. But really, Build is developers conference, and you can ask, well, wait a minute, we also have Ignite, which is also a developer conference. But the difference is, David put it really, really nicely, that Ignite is about what's now, whilst Build is about tomorrow, what's coming. It was really impressive. Lots of things to see, lots of things to talk about, lots of things to digest and to just generally to absorb. I guess I spent my week or few days at Build just absorbing, digesting, and thinking about future. Nearly got kicked out of the press area. Because somehow I managed to sit myself down in the press area, and then I was told that someone was pointing at me and saying, kick him out, because he's not a real press. And I was showing my Twitter account saying, no, I'm real press. I'm, CRM Tip of the Day press.
You didn't have your podcaster badge on?
I should have. I did have CRM Tip of the Day badge, but not the podcast. No.
What kind of sessions did you see at Build?
It started all really nice and easy with, keynotes talking about IoT developments and things like IoT Edge, where you can push basically your IoT deployment to the edge, and including the code. You see, the problem with IoT right now is that all your devices are collecting the data and then sending to the central location and so forth. But what happens, for example, when your comms lines are cut out, and what can your devices do? And turns out, well, a lot. So with IoT Edge, you can actually deploy stuff to your IoT devices and some processing code to your IoT devices, so you can centralize management. There's a concept of twin devices. There's so much coming, but it gets better and better and better. So that's definitely something to look forward to. There were a few other things from the keynote, pure development stuff like Visual Studio for Mac. Believe it or not, it's coming, and I think it's already there. So cute things like for mobile developers would appreciate something like real-time debugging on mobile devices, so you can actually connect your mobile device and debug your application right. So you run your application on mobile device and you debug it directly in Visual Studio, and the connection is really, really interesting. So you scan the QR code with your mobile device and off you go. You're already connected. Your Visual Studio session is connected, and so on and so forth.
It's interesting to see how over time the enemies have changed, where now they announced like every major Linux distribution is going to be available from the Windows Store, and iTunes is going to be available from the Windows Store. It now seems like Apple and Linux are now our buddies, and Google and Chromebooks are our enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
To some extent, well, the Linux is available. What's more interesting is that you can run Linux now inside Windows, right? So you can spin off your Bash shell and run, and it's not a gimmick. It's a full Linux running. So
you know that Linux fans have to curse under their breath every time they hear that.
But interesting. In fact, Azure itself acquired a CLI shell directly in the browser. So shell is a new GUI, back to green screens and 80 characters per line. That was one of the themes at Build overall, that Microsoft suddenly is kind of breaking free from ever playing catching up, and suddenly they introduce new things, and things like in cognitive services. The demos were impressive, and cognitive services where you can train the cameras on, say, on the workplace. And what they showed, it was a demo, but it was so cute. It was so nice. They trained cameras on objects, and your AI processing behind the scenes would recognize objects like this is the jackhammer, this is the chainsaw, and so forth. So then they introduced a policy around the workplace saying, okay, only say trained employees allowed to use a chainsaw. And then Bob walks in, who's not a trained employee or didn't receive training yet, and the system recognizes Bob by face, and then Bob picks up chainsaw, and the system sends alarms flying saying, untrained employee just picked up a chainsaw. It was cute and funny, but gets the message across that some interesting things are coming in cognitive services. So if I have to make a bet, that would be definitely directions of big data with things like Cosmo DB, consistency of your data around the globe, consistent API, Internet of Things, collecting data, make deployment much easier. Then there's definitely cognitive services. That's the whole new ball game. Everyone.
So now that you saw what's in Microsoft's crystal ball, if you're one of our listeners, how does this change your focus? What areas should you focus more on than you probably are right now?
Okay, yeah, I already did one post. I'm doing the series on CRM Tip of the Day called Scratch the Surface. That was really funny. This guy did a demo utilizing about 5 surfaces all up, and then he finished off and said, today we just scratched the surface, and I'm kind of, not 1, but 5 of them. I
didn't think scratching the surface was a positive thing for Microsoft.
Yeah. So anyway, so he finished on this note, scratch the surface, but I decided to pick it up and say, okay, let's scratch the surface. So now I'm going to do some short posts about what are the future directions that we as Dynamics 365 should be paying attention to. Apart from all the development tools enhancements that we should really move to Visual Studio 2017, that's kind of, small stuff. What transpired to me is there are a few key areas. The first, IoT. Definitely it's going to pick up. It's going to be bigger and better with the tooling, with the edge support, with the twin devices, with automatic provisioning. Intel came to the party. If you're interested to know all the details, do watch the keynote session on Channel 9. In fact, do and watch. All the sessions were recorded. So on Channel 9, it's all available. Other things, we becoming database agnostic. So take a look at things like Cosmo DB and MySQL and Postgres SQL are coming. They're already there on Azure. So database becomes really a commodity to use. So what other things? Azure Functions definitely is the way to go. So unfortunately named as a serverless architecture, it's not. So there is a server running some way, just someone manages it for you, but definitely Azure Functions is the future of scalability. AI is another area to pay attention to with cognitive services and so on and so forth. And then there are changes on user interface. So there is a new design model and fluid design and so on and so forth. If you've seen screenshots that I've tweeted through with adaptive cards and the timeline, pay attention to Office 365. Pay attention to the API available to you. So that's going to change. The Graph API, that's something to look at. As far as big data is concerned, I already did the post, become a data scientist. Attend the course. I am attending. It's like 3 months, a virtual course. Definitely. Scott Sewell did the move, did the right move, preemptive move, escaping Dynamics 365 for Power BI. And I think that will be the future, ability to analyze volumes of data Definitely something to pay attention to. And to analyze big volumes of data, you need to understand how this analysis work and how big data tools work. So for that, I invite everyone sort of to attend this academy and complete the mad data scientist course.
Well, now, what if you're not interested in analyzing large volumes of data? I understand it's a very big trend, in the future, but there's always going to be. Are you thinking that the Dynamics 365 is going to become so bulletproof that data volumes is really the next step, or is it just a preference on your part?
No, it's just something I think has a big future. And if you're looking for new areas to explore and to extend your horizons and learn something new, this is definitely you should be paying attention to. It may not be your cup of tea. I'm not inviting everyone to drop everything and jump on data scientist course. I'm just saying that if you're curious about it, if you working with Power BI, for example, and you, as me, find it's challenging, and there is a feeling of daily struggle, because I've got this feeling because I don't understand the data the way I should be. If I work with the business data, with the volume of data, I feel there is a gap. I like working with Power BI and with the data, but I feel there is a gap. So I'm saying, I'm personally feeling that this is the right course. I'm gonna fill the gap for myself. It may not be your cup of tea, but if you're feeling that you're lacking in this department, then definitely something to look forward to. As far as Dynamics, so I mentioned the graph. There was another thing that kind of triggered some interest from me. I was watching the presentation from Flow team, and they were talking about Flow and SharePoint. And one of the things was on the slide that in-context flows are common to Dynamics 365. We can all relate to that. So Dynamics Flow is basically a flow that you can trigger from inside Dynamics 365, and that will have an understanding of the context it's triggered in. So on record A, for example, right? What got me thinking is that finally a replacement for the built-in workflow?
For Flow?
Yeah. In-context flow, would that replace workflow?
You got to ask that question. I've asked that question. People have laughed me out of the room practically, but you can see it moving that way, in that this, as it gains functionality, some point it comes to that point where it can replace it. And one of the major things is being able to trigger one in context to another record. And again, I'm reading the writing on the wall here of all the new stuff coming out, like take your pick. Learning Path. Learning Path is not something unique to CRM. They wanted a guided process, so they leveraged something they had built that is shared by all these applications. It only makes sense that if you have a robust workflow engine that can run in context of records, and you get it to be near parity, why have two different ways of doing it?
Right. So does Dynamics 365 eventually simply become a hub for different services, and there's very focused core content that is, because you have outside of the standard schema, which some of that is going to be in a larger implementation could be shared in the common data service, right? You could be getting that from multiple sources, populating your customer data. Then you would have Flow, you have cognitive services, you have, it looks like it's just kind of becoming this hub for all these cloud services connecting to it, and rather than that core being constantly iterated upon It's everything outside of it is being iterated upon, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different than what we've experienced in the past.
Well, if you consider the marketing around Dynamics 365, and it's not just CRM, it's not operations, it's not recruiting, it's this big platform, having a shared workflow engine is one of the ways to bring those walls down.
Right. Agreed. And in having that workflow engine gives you a workflow engine that can be used in operations and in sales and in service and in field service. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
it's just
I would think
it's just an interesting change, though, if that's the case.
Wait a minute. That's just part of it, right? We're talking about back-end services, something like workflow and replacement of the workflow or alternative to the workflow. But I was watching presentation on a new .NET developments, .NET Standard 2.0 coming out. It's going across the devices. It's going across iOS, Android, and Windows. Then there is a new XAML Standard 1.0 coming out. So there is a new standard on defining user interface. And then it occurred to me, what if, just think about this for a second. What if we take .NET Standard 2.0, we take this XAML Standard 1.0, and we develop a rich client for Dynamics 365. And we say, hold on, put this browser client on the side, right? The whole idea of the browser client was, we can render it in, iOS and here and there and Android. And suddenly we have this luxury in a rich client developing from a single code base. I'm saying, how about that? What if we just create a new client which is not browser-based, which is .NET Standard-based, and it would slowly over the time replace the existing client. On top of that, think about how easy it is to create new interfaces and new targeted applications using Power Apps. Bang, 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 and you have an application which has a camera and this and GPS and that and talks to, common data services, and suddenly it's all flying and talks to Dynamics 365, and it's all, buzzing and flying, and you spent only 2 hours developing this application and business is ecstatic about it. So I floated this idea some time ago, probably a year ago, that at some point in time, with the Power Apps, we might see proliferation of the lots and lots of targeted small apps instead of having a one monolithic Dynamics 365 client serving all purposes.
Yeah, and you add to that app builder or app designer, you've already got that scaling the monolith down.
Yeah,
but I think we're not there yet. But they will come. I'm predicting where Power Apps will be powerful enough, and somebody will build a basic SFA app that is good enough for small to medium sized customers. And so then we'll have the interesting choice of, do I get Dynamics 365 or do I just go with this Power App? We're already seeing mobile only CRM vendors out there that are only on mobile.
Right.
So I think it's interesting times are coming. Well, it's enough future mumbo jumbo. Exciting stuff coming. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and give a shout out to our friend Gus Gonzalez, who launched his CRM MVP podcast. And welcome to the CRM podcaster family, Gus. You're joining us, and CRM rocks. Actually, we have him here with us.
Microsoft Business Solutions MVP, Gus Gonzalez.
All right, Gus, is it not true that you learned everything you know about CRM from George Dubinsky?
Right.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Right.
So now I've got this is the GusBot 3000. Chat bots. This is the GusBot.
So this is how we're competing. Okay.
No, we competing on much more than that. I just heard the news that Gus said, "Who would you rather have for your trainer as a football or soccer coach? Would you rather have a no name or Lionel Messi?" as your coach, and obviously your choice would have been Lionel Messi, unless his sentence of 21 months for tax fraud was not upheld just yesterday.
Oh, that's unfortunate for him. That's going to take him off the international scene for a little bit.
Funny thing is, it's not, because apparently in Spain, sentences less than 2 years can be served on probation. So Lionel Messi, convicted tax fraud, is going to continue to earn his millions playing football. So here you go. Would you rather have him as your coach?
What country is Lionel? He's in Spain?
He plays for Barcelona.
Yeah. He plays for Barcelona.
If you get a chance, listen to the NPR Planet Muddy podcast. They had one around U.S. Tax Day mid-April about how other various countries are motivating their countrymen to pay their taxes, because around the world, U.S. very high level of tax paying. Other countries, not so much. And so one of the tactics that countries like Spain are having is they're going after really high visibility targets like celebrities, because that's the way that they can use their limited budget to most effectively get people. It's interesting.
We do it in Australia too. Crocodile Dundee was involved in a big ATO case against him. ATO stands for Australian Tax Office. So.
He wasn't reporting all the shrimp on the Barbie, apparently.
Correct, yes. That's right. Apparently lots of shrimp in Channel Islands.
Yeah. His big collection of knives.
That's right. So what's new, Hobbit?
Well, we had a lot of... Well, you covered a crap ton in the build commentary there, my friend.
There was a lot to cover.
You really
I just scratched the surface. Trust me.
Now
yes.
you both were in the CRMUG Focus How to Be a Developer session. You want to give a recap of that session?
Well, that was interesting. That really was interesting, because it was a session that was geared toward folks either that were relatively new to development or have been a developer for a while and wanted to maybe expand into developing for Dynamics 365, right? So it was when I first got asked to be part of that, I asked the question, why? Because I'm not a developer, and George has said it many times. But it was a very interesting session. I mean, we had some really good questions. We had Jerry Weinstock, George, Jason Latimer, Abe Saldana. Was there someone else? Am I missing somebody, George?
It. You missed yourself. Yeah.
That's it. Yes, and me. So it was. There was a lot of really good stories about how to write good code, how to support good requirements, how to work with the business. All of there was a lot of echoing of the same kind of message, which was good. And my part was really focusing on how to support those folks that develop and help them get the most out of what they can do. I was really honored to be a part of it. It was neat hearing the questions that we got from the audience and hearing the experiences from George and Jason and Jerry and Abe, and how they were different. They're all developers to one degree or another, but what they presented was slightly askew, right? Because of their experience. It was a great session.
No,
okay, so you had all these great developers in the room. Who did the audience ask questions to, Sean?
Me! Yay!
You have all these legendary developers, and the one question that was asked was for you?
Yes!
It's called intimidation factor, Joel. Intimidation factor. When you see a celebrity and your knees are weak and your throat is dry, and so that was it. Hobbit was least intimidating of them all.
And I think that's because I started out by clearly saying, if you write code, you're awesome. I can't do it. So
Yeah,
Good on you.
some people know how to suck up. Yeah, definitely.
That's right. That's right.
No, but it was really interesting session because we were not given a framework of reference what we're going to talk about. So everyone kind of assumed a different audience. So some people assumed that, we're going to talk about developers who want to become better developers. I, for one, assumed that we're talking about non-developers or power users who want to expand their horizons and become highly paid and highly regarded developers, and so on and so forth. Jerry assumed that it's about managing your developers and communicate. Hobbit assumed that it's about communicating with your developers and supporting them. So that was really, really interesting that everyone gave their unique kind of twist on the subject, and it came up, I thought it came up good, as did lots of other sessions.
Yeah, but the other thing about focus, and this was more to the format, that 90 minutes as a presenter seemed very intimidating. But once we were in there and actually going through the session, I thought it was fantastic to be able to have that amount of time. And I think the participants responded very well to it also, thinking that we're not rushing, we're not hurrying through topics. They were able to be involved and interact. It's a great format. Now, could every conference be like that? I don't think so. But I thought the concept was good. It would be great to see some sessions at conferences like Summit or Ignite or what have you, to have that kind of format, just to have that flexibility, I think.
And you know who we really missed at CRMUG Focus?
Microsoft Business Solutions MVP Gus Gonzalez.
He wasn't there, and it was sad. He wasn't there for the picture.
Right.
And I know, and it's awful. But, I think if he was there, he would have wanted, he would have been intimidated by my presence.
Right.
All right. So one thing I've been playing with lately and gotten into more than I had before is gamification. I finally decided, you know what? Gamification has been out. Well, Fantasy Sales Team came out about a year ago, and now we have gamification. I really wanted to learn it because I really thought I really liked the concept, but I hadn't actually done that much with it. And so I did, and I set up some games and figured out how to do it. I really like it, and I found some interesting things. And if you haven't used it, I'd recommend you do. Just go to AppSource and install it. There's some good videos out there about gamification. I'm not sure if Derik has done a tipster guide to gamification yet or not. If he hasn't, he should. But basically, the idea is you use the metaphor of a fantasy sports league. You can do North American-centric like football, and you can also do European sports like rugby, cricket, football, which they call soccer, which they call football, and things like that. And so what I like about it, and what really hit home after looking at it, compared to user adoption solutions or goals or any of the old ways we did it, the thing I really like about it is it's geared to motivate not just the people who are the top performers, like the salespeople that lead the board, and it's also the people who are the up-and-comers, the newbies, the people who aren't. And I was in sales for about 10 years, and I remember being a new salesperson. It was really kind of demotivating when I would see my more experienced colleagues be at the leaderboard, and I was down next to the bottom. So the thing that it does is you've got like your team, where you've got your baseball team, you've got your pitchers, your catchers, your hitters, your shortstops, your right fielders, etc. And you group players, like you make all your top tier players the pitchers, you make all of the lower tier ones, other ones. But you're competing against each other, but you're competing not just against everybody, but you're also competing against people at your position. So, as opposed to saying the people at the top get the Cadillac, number 2 gets the steak knives, number 3 gets fired, you can say, okay, the people in third tier are competing against each other, and maybe you've got the overall MVP. So anyway, it's really good. I found some interesting things, though, that weren't clearly documented. One is that you can only use it in one environment. If you set it up and activate the solution in one environment, like your training environment, and then you go and try and set up in the other environment, it doesn't support that. What it will do is it'll prompt you and say, hey, you want to deactivate the other one. It'll give you a choice, and you got to do that. So if you want to do training first, you can activate it against training, and then activate it against production where you're ready to go live. The thing that's not really documented is you can't do that unless you delete the existing active games. So if you have games running in the other environment, you got to delete those first before you can activate it. But I found after spending literally like 3-4 hours, I was able to understand that the videos on the Dynamics Learning Portal, if you work for a partner, and I'm assuming some of these are also available on Customer Source, are really good and really help me do it. But nothing beats just setting up a trial, installing the solution from App Source, and then going. I would love to see more CRM customers use this, because I think even people in non-sales like customer service, you can do KPIs like number of activities, number of calls for people in the call center. And again, it's just a more friendly and an interactive way to do it than having the more carrot and stick approach with the more stick.
How customizable is it? I mean, can you, if you have a pretty heavily customized case module, for example, and you have a lot of supporting entities, can you do anything with that? Or
yeah. It let me. I created some KPIs for some custom entities, or also some referencing some custom fields. So yeah, there's really no limit there. You have to have the what's the thing that tracks changes? Change tracking. That has to be enabled on the entity, because that's how the KPIs are triggered, basically. But yeah, you can do anything, any kind of. You think through what actions you want to enforce or reinforce or motivate people to do. Not just, and that's the other thing, is not just rewarding performance, but in rewarding effort. So if we find our best salespeople make X number of sales calls per day, therefore we want to do a metric around activity around sales calls. And that way, if you're not at the top yet, but you're putting in the effort, you'll be rewarded for that.
Is there any way to access information on how many times like someone has executed a learning path or something like that?
I don't think so. It's more around any date field on the record. So anything like created by or created on, or if you have something that updated another date field. I don't think it does it based on accessing the system. And that's where things like, I'm a little bit torn, because I see why people want to see for user adoption, like the organization insights, you want to see how many people are logging into the system. But that doesn't really show you who's really using the system. Everybody who uses the Outlook client will get a check mark around I logged into the system today, even though I might not have done anything. So that's where I think more strategically rewarding the actions that you want people to be taking is a better approach than just saying, I'm going to look at who's logged in today. This episode of CRM Audio is sponsored by Alexa CRM. WordPress powers more than 25% of all the websites on the internet and is the number one choice for blogs, websites, and portals because it's open source, simple to use, reliable, and extendable. Dynamics CRM has become a de facto standard in sales, marketing, customer service, and industry solutions. Now they can work together thanks to the Dynamics CRM WordPress plugin built with love by the Alexa CRM team. Capture forms, engage your users and customers, all without writing any code. Control your site in WordPress, keeping your data in CRM. To build the plugin, Alexa CRM has created an open source Dynamics CRM PHP toolkit, unlocking the world of Dynamics for PHP developers. Download your 30-day trial from alexacrm.com/plugin and instantly create a portal by connecting your CRM and WordPress site. We thank Alexa CRM for their sponsorship of CRM Audio. It's looking like the spring release is now the summer release.
Yeah, and yes. Well, yeah, I guess I was trying to figure a way around it, but I can't figure
winter for some. Or maybe we can push it to early spring in Australia.
Yeah, wait 2 more months and have it be the spring Australia release.
That's right.
Well, I say if it's not ready, let it cook a little bit longer.
Amen.
Look,
I'm all for that.
yeah, there's lots of new things and exciting things coming out. So I totally agree that let it, let delay it for months or two if needed, but deliver solid features. Are you guys looking forward to virtual entities?
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up, George, since we so rudely did an episode without you. Although you had the flu, so I think that was a valid excuse. But
It was a virtual
since you were
flu.
under the weather, since you were under the weather, and we briefly discussed this last week at our episode from the Hitachi Customer Conference. What are your thoughts? Because I think it's a great thing. What is your thoughts?
Well, it's quite interesting that I reckon that if you've done enough Dynamics CRM or 365 systems, you've done something like that already. People done virtual entities, if not entities, the pseudo entities, if not virtual entities, but pseudo entities. Yeah, we've done it for a long, long time. Basically, you have ability to intercept all the requests in the system with the plugins, including, create, retrieve, update, delete. And once you do that, then yes, definitely you can do what you want. And we used to intercept,
Right.
and retrieve multiple and do our own calculated fields. And so we had this notion of virtual fields and virtual entities for quite some time. However, having said that, it's always been suffering from, poor performance problems and again, leaky design abstractions. So once you start abstracting it, it's hard to keep a lid on it, so it starts leaking and bugs appear all over the place. So it's nice to have a framework, a nice uniform way to define those virtual entities. Definitely it's going to be some performance challenges. People, connecting to third-party systems and trying to channel that through as a virtual entity in Dynamics 365. So it's going to be a performance challenge always. But having those virtual entities exist on par with the built-in entities, it's definitely a huge step forward and opens up the whole new scenarios that I envisage would involve common data services, external systems, and even other CRM deployments where you can surface an entity from one CRM into another one as a virtual entity. That would be interesting. So let's see what comes out. The first release obviously is going to be a tamed one, let's put it this way. So there will be read-only access, I believe. There will be some other limitations, but let's get it started. Let's see what comes out. So I'm personally very excited.
I think this has one major advantage over any of the custom virtual entities or visual integration kind of approaches that we've seen, which is it's more part of the system, meaning potentially the ability to attach activities to it or the ability to use the standard advanced find tools. That makes it much better than just doing a call to get that, because it's more part of the system. Because it was thinking like we were just talking gamification. Let's just say that it becomes available where that entity could be using something like gamification, or I can use it as a filter for a marketing list or something like that. Again, I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's the promise of, and that really to me is the kind of finishing the XRM story, because the XRM story was anything relationship management. This is kind of the mashup of all your different systems.
Right.
But wait, you got to move all this data into this one database. Now it's like, hey, the data doesn't have to even live here. You can show it and have pretty full access to it. And then down the road, if that gains additional capabilities like CRUD capabilities, I can see people deploying environments that have a handful of fields and real entities in CRM, and everything else lives somewhere else. Or here's the other thing: could you have the common data service be the store of your data for most of this stuff, and just have your entities be mainly a shell?
Right.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would opens up quite a few scenarios.
And does this give you the ability to inherit security based on the data from the source? So if you're pulling data from a table that only certain people have write access to, does that allow you to, inherit that within CRM, or are we looking at a kind of a combination thing where you'd have to lock it down in CRM and so the message doesn't go out?
That's where I see the common data service being interesting, because the common data service, one of the ways it's being enhanced is additional security, where you can basically mirror security similarly from Dynamics 365 customer engagement or operations. And when you have that, then you should be able to have a similar security structure. If it's somewhere in an Oracle database or something, then I would assume that would be a lot harder.
I don't see.
Well,
yes.
but if it's from an Oracle database, wouldn't you pull that into the common data service and then populate the virtual entity from CDS rather than trying to go directly out? Or am I getting that wrong?
That's all stuff we don't know yet.
Okay.
We don't have this feature yet, so it's speculation. But what we do know is virtual entities are coming because it says so on the roadmap site, and that's a good thing.
and we clearly already have things that we need to test out. So there you go.
And Gus, you agree with me,
Right?
Okay. Well, Gus and I agreed, so that settles it.
Well, there you go. That's never going to get old. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Brilliant.
Right?
Yeah. Joel, for the next conference, can you create, a button that replaces it?
Yes, we could. What are those? I see Ben Vollmer is all into the IoT things, and he has these buttons. What are they called? They're called I can't know, but they're this hardware device that's basically a button, and they work with Flow and a number of different services like that. So we could get one of those buttons and have the Gus bot button that every time we want Gus to agree with us, we hit the button.
Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, let's work on that. So before the next.
So what is your hardware recommendation?
That's obviously not. I would love to take credit for it, but no. The credit goes to our video host, Derik Bormann. He showed up at CRMUG Focus with this presentation remote. It's called Spotlight Presentation Remote from Logitech, and it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's Scott Searle, myself, I know a couple other people already went and bought on the same day because it's just awesome. If you used Clicker before, this is kind of a game changer because it gives you ability to create literally a spotlight on the screen during your presentation. It gives you ability to zoom in on the areas, and in fact, if your presentation is all about click and no typing, then you can actually navigate through the hyperlinks and websites and so on. So it's just awesome. So, and it's stylish, and it comes in gold as well. So if any of you fans of the golden shiny things are listening, then yes, it comes in gold as well. So it's definitely worth the money. If you're presenting more than once a year, I'd say get it, because I already done a presentation with it and planning a couple others. It definitely changes the way you present. It frees you up a bit from your computer.
George thinks that Goldfinger was the hero of the movie.
Exactly. Well, so if you're a big fan of the Kardashians, you'd get the gold one. And I think, if I remember correctly, Gus is a big Kim Kardashian fan. Right?
Right.
Okay.
That's right. Okay.
Just checking.
Well, agree to agree. Hold on. Before we close off, there's one thing I wanted to mention that came up during the build keynotes. Couple things, in fact. One is they obviously did some demos, some funny ones about the workplace and jackhammer not being in the correct position. I invite you to go and watch the keynote to see that for yourself. This is kind of up our Dynamics 365 alley. The impressive demo was second keynote on the second day. they showed how virtual reality can change the way, and HoloLens can change the way people that work with the big structures, big design things. And they did Cirque du Soleil demo where they designed a virtual stage right there, right on stage. That was very, very impressive. But my vote, and I think everyone else, goes to a short video, and they brought participants on stage. Just go and search for Emma Project Microsoft, and we'll put the reference into our notes on the podcast. But there was no dry eye in the house after this one, because it showed from Microsoft's research, one of the researchers was working with a girl named Emma who's suffering from Parkinson's disease. And the designer, developed a bracelet or a watch that actually counteracts the tremor in the hand of the Parkinson sufferer. And this girl, Emma, she was able to actually write stuff after getting this device. So go on, watch the keynote, watch the video. The video is on YouTube. We put the reference in. That was the highlight of the entire build. I tell you what, all this technology, all these Visual Studio enhancements and Cosmo DB and, Universe DB and what's not, it all fades away and pales compared to real life stories like this one. Seriously, it was a brilliant one. It was awesome.
Yeah, I saw that video online, and it was very good. So I'll put that in the post for the episode.
Definitely. So if you're a real developer, come on Build, come to Ignite in the fall. If you're not a real developer, but you do appreciate developers' craft, come to CRMUG, come to Directions. There will be Directions US. That's kind of traditional Navision conference, but I think there will be some Dynamics 365 presence as well. So after the quiet summer, which can be, brightened up by a release, we all into the fall of the conferences. So plan your travel now. Future is very, very bright. Over and out, right, Gus?
Right?
This has been CRM Audio, the Microsoft Dynamics CRM podcast. You can hear previous episodes on our website, crm.audio. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at CRM Audio, or leave us a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/CRM podcast. If you have any topic suggestions or questions that you would like for us to answer on a future episode, please drop us an email at voice@crm.audio. Special thanks to Dale Simmons for our theme music. Go check out his website, dalesimmons.com. Please join us next time on CRM Audio.